Hey, everybody, it is Trags Mike Petralia alongside, or at least virtually alongside, Richard Skinner of Local 12 in Cincinnati. This is the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod following a disastrous, embarrassing, I shall say. I think you could say it's safe to say 37-17 loss at home. What else is new to the Philadelphia Eagles at Paycor Stadium on White Bengals Sunday? It was certainly ruined by the Bengals' performance, especially in the second half. Skinny, there are so many places to get to as to why this team is 3-5. I'm going to give you one stat that sticks out to me and shows the lack of heart, the lack of courage, the lack of purpose from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Hit me, Michael.
In the fourth quarter. And that would be 17 carries, 43 yards, one touchdown, but 17 carries, 43 yards from your two feature running backs. Your most explosive run on the day came from your quarterback, Joe Burrow, of 8 yards. This Bengal team cannot run the ball, and it's been that way for years and years now in the Joe Burrow era. It's totally unacceptable, and it shows incredible a soft underbelly of the Bengals, a weakness.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Cordell Volson's a big, strong guy, right? Orlando Brown, he got hurt again today, is a big, strong guy. Amarius Mims is a big, strong guy. Cordell Volson's team ran it in college well. They were really good, period, again, at a smaller level. Alex Kapp is a big, strong guy. Ted Karras is a little bit undersized as a center, but he's had success in this league. So is it schematic? Is it attention to doing it? It dawned on me as the game progressed, Mike. Philly didn't have a lot of success running the ball for a chunk of the game, right? And they kept sticking with it and sticking with it and sticking with it. I'm not here to tell you the Bengals have to be Philly and run it 39 times. They don't.
No.
They have Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts is not Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts had a great game today, and kudos to him, but he's not Joe Burrow. He's not an elite quarterback. He's a nice quarterback who does things in their system that's perfect for what they do. But it feels like the Bengals have no commitment to running the ball. Like you run it once for 2 yards. We stink. We can't keep doing this. And maybe they can't. Maybe it literally is you just can't for whatever reason. Schematic, line, whatever. If that's the case, then you got bigger issues than just being soft. You've got issues of talent. And maybe that's the case. And honestly, I think as we get through this, and I'm writing a little bit about this, maybe that's the case overall. You've just hit a talent wall at the moment.
Well, there's one segment of this game that every fan is going to focus on, good, bad, or indifferent, and that is late in the third quarter. Bengals have it 3rd and 1 at their own 39-yard line. They trail 24-17 at that time.
Very much
and Chase Brown gets stonewalled. He has no gain on the third down run. So Zach Taylor, and I give him credit for this, says, screw it. We need to get something going. We need to go for it. Well, they don't run it, probably because there's, I guess, understandably have no confidence in the run game. Joe Burrow goes to Jamar Chase on a pass that was probably 12 yards in distance, 2 yards
sideways.
behind the line, sideways. A 12-yard swing pass, 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and lo and behold, Jamar Chase gets tackled and wrapped up immediately. The Bengals telegraphed the play at the line of scrimmage, bringing Jamar Chase in motion, then bringing him back, sending him back. It was easy pickings for the Eagles defense. And from that point on, the Bengals got outscored 13-0 in the fourth quarter, and that was all she wrote. To me, those two plays kind of sum up the 2024 Bengals. They can't get out of their own way. And again, when they need to gain a yard, they simply can't do it.
Yeah, and I don't think the third down call is on the call itself. I don't mind. You run a guy between the tackles, that's fine. You're allowed to gain a yard between the tackles. And they couldn't do it. The fourth down decision to me, I'm 50-50. I can't completely blame Zach Taylor. Part of me says, you know what? I get it. He panicked because they hadn't stopped them. I mean, let's not forget the Eagles had the ball 8 times in this game, Mike, and scored points, not touchdowns, scored points on 7 of those 8 drives. It wasn't.
Sounds like the Washington game to me, Skinny.
Yes, no, right. At some point, you just have to say, you know what? I got to leave my offense out there because I can't turn this back over to my defense. And here we are. So I don't mind that. But to your point, so Paul Daner Jr., who sits next to me, he and I have seen this play. It feels like a billion times. So have you, Mike. I mean, for goodness sakes.
Yes.
And Paul literally, when Jamar went in motion, he goes, "Oh no, it's the swing pass." I said, "Yeah, it sure is." And how about two stupid sports writers sitting in a press box that can realize, here's what's coming. You don't think the Eagles didn't realize that? And again, the kid who made the tackle made a great tackle in space, but he made a great tackle in space because he came downhill from Jump Street knowing exactly where that ball was going, why it was going there. And we know Jamar is a great runner. I thought Zach made a really good point last Monday in his press conference. Remember, they ran a bubble to Jamar early in the Cleveland game.
Yes.
And it had no gain written all over it. It really did. He made a guy miss and then dragged tacklers for 8 yards. And he said, hardly anybody else in the NFL makes any yards on that. And he's right. And I think that's what they counted on there is, let's get him a touch. He's going to break a tackle. Well, he got a touch 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, not moving forward, behind the line of scrimmage. And the kid for Philly reads it perfectly and makes it, again, it was a great open field tackle. Jamar literally had no chance on that play whatsoever. So I know people can blame the decision. I hope they don't, because I didn't think the decision was wrong. Again, I could be
Zach
talked
was
out of
trying
that.
to stay in the game and win the game.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Mike, because again, your defense at that point had not shown much over the last handful of series since they forced Philly to punt on the second drive of the game. They hadn't stopped them at that point. It got worse as things went along, so I understand that. And it's 4th and a yard. I mean, in the NFL anymore, 4th and a yard is a joke. I mean, most teams go for it and make that thing. Hell, Philly gets under center at 4th and 2 and goes, we're going to shove our quarterback forward, and we make it every single time. So I get that part of it, but boy, it sure did. The worm totally turned at that point. To the defense's credit, for once in the game, it actually held Philly without a first down, held them to a field goal. In the next series, they try to hit a home run to Jamar down the sideline. It was a great interception by a tip ball, and at that point, that was it. But yeah, that 4th down play was a huge one in the game.
After that interception, I watched the exits. The fans filed out of the streamed out of Paycor. They are ticked off, Skinny, and they are deservedly, so they should be, and understandably, they should be ticked off at the way the Bengals have underperformed all season long. They are 0-4 at home, which even Zach Taylor after the game said that's inexcusable, not only for our fans, but our players, which I felt was kind of an interesting odd thing to say. Well, you feel like the coaching staff isn't getting them prepared enough to play at home? I mean, how did you were in there. How did you read that?
I read it as just him being frustrated. And I don't think it's a preparation. I really don't think it's a preparation issue. And Mike, I'm writing this I'm 90% done with it. Honestly, I just don't think this team is good enough. I mean, you heard all these people say, hey, we weren't good enough today. We weren't good enough in this situation. We got to be better. Okay, that sounds great. I appreciate you thinking that and saying that.
Right.
But maybe you're just not good enough. Maybe, you've hit that wall of bad draft picks and poor free agent signings and aging players and injury and not signing players and letting players walk. And some of those decisions I'm not opposed to. We can all relitigate Jesse Bates and the T situation.
He had another great game today, by the way.
I know. No, I know. And I honestly, we can relitigate all of those things. I'm fine with that. Because it's fair game at this point. And I think you're paying the price for that across the board. Jordan Battle's in the game today at safety. He's in quarters coverage. I don't think he blew the coverage. I actually thought his coverage was pretty good on Devontae Smith. Yeah. Just get your head around and make the play, and he doesn't do it, and it's a big touchdown pass. And so it's all those things that they seem little in theory, right? Like not getting your head around, or not getting a 3rd and 1 that turns into a 4th and 1, and you're still allowed to make the 4th one. But when it starts to add up, and you look at what this team has done, Mike, to your point, they're 0-4 at home with an inexplicable loss to a 2-5 New England team, which God love them. They somehow beat the Jets today, and kudos to them, but they're still a terrible team. Your 3 wins are over not very good teams. Cleveland did win today at home. Good for them. That makes them 2-5. Congrats to you. Carolina's terrible. And I'm missing whatever other. The Giants. The Giants are terrible. And so those are your wins at the moment. And yeah, you competed at Kansas City. You competed at home against Baltimore. And that's well and good. That shows you're close. But close in this league, everybody's close, for goodness sakes. You have to win games. And I'm not sure this team is good enough. And then you pile on top of it T not playing, and other wide receivers other than Jamar Chase had 2 catches on 8 targets. One of those a 41-yarder Jermaine Burton, but 2 catches for 45 yards on 8 targets. That's all the rest of them had other than Jamar Chase. You don't think that T. Higgins doesn't mean something to this team? At the same time, then T. Higgins can't get on the field. They're 0-3 without T. Higgins. It's a jumbled mess of a mess, and I don't know how you work your way out of this just because you haven't proven to me this season that you're, honestly, again, I go back to you're just not good enough. You can talk about we're not good enough today. No, you're not good enough, period, as a team.
Strong teams win with a run game. It doesn't have to be the primary focus of your offense, but you win, especially late in games, by running out the clock. We saw the good Bengal teams be able to do that, especially in 2-minute and 4-minute drives to end games. They were able to run the ball with Joe Mixon, better than today at least. I want to get to a quote from the simmering pot that is Joe Burrow. That's my read of him.
To your point.
Go ahead.
He looked like somebody had shot his dog, killed his 2 kittens, went into his house where his bird is and stuffed his bird somewhere, kidnapped his parents and said, yeah, I'm not having a good day, guys. That's what it felt like. I hate to be, make light of that, but that's literally what it felt like, Mike. So not to cut you off, because I think I know where you're going with this.
So I think Joe Burrow, we can get to this in a little bit, needs to blow up, and I think he needs to make he needs to say enough is enough. But
great call.
Before we get to that, we want to go back to what he said about the run game. After the first game, we ran it well for a couple of weeks in a row there. The last couple of weeks haven't been good enough. When you play good rushers like we have the last several weeks, you've got to keep them off balance and be able to run the ball. If you don't, then they aren't going to be quite as worried about it, and then their edge guys are going to start getting pushed, and the play action isn't going to be as good. So you've got to drop back and make plays, and that's what those kind of teams want. So it's tough when you can't. That is him calling out the run game in no uncertain terms, saying, if we can't run, screw it. We're screwed. We are not going to be the offense we think we can be.
So part of me, and I have to, games go by in a blur, right? And we're writing on the run, and sometimes we miss things. So I'm looking forward to seeing this again. The Jake Browning offense last year of getting under center, running the ball, play action passing, bootlegging. I know Joe's strength is going in the gun and looking around and figuring out where he wants to go with it. But it feels like they kind of have abandoned that at times. Now, is that a Zach issue? Is that a Dan Pitcher issue? I don't think it's a Frank Pollock issue, because Frank's role is really just designing the runs that they want to use. So it's not him saying, hey, let's get under center here. Let's not get under center there. Let's run from the gun here. Let's not run from the gun there. But it feels like they've kind of abandoned that portion of the program. And honestly, I thought that had a shot to be a strength with the 2 tight end looks, and especially today when, again, you knew you were getting no production from that other wide receiver spot, whoever it was, you knew it. So lean into the 2 tight end stuff, lean into play action, lean into running the ball, and they didn't do it. And that's where I just wonder if there's just a discombobulation of what they're trying to do offensively, and they can't get out of their own way because they have a set way they want to do it because it makes Joe comfortable. Maybe at some point you tell Joe, listen, man, I know you love the gun. I know that's what you like, but right now we got to do something different to make our offense click. And maybe it is getting under center, running it for 2 yards, running it for 3 yards, completing a 3rd down pass, then going back under center on 1st down and going, hey, now we can run some play action and let's take a shot or take some deep over or take some deep out. Because it just feels like right now it's hard to make yards in this offense.
Well, you bring up 3rd down. They started this game 7 for 7, Skinny.
It's insane. They were
5 for 5 on the opening drive, 70 yards. Burrow did exactly what you were just talking about, Skinny. He did a mixture of getting under center, running the offense from shotgun, and they marched right down the field. He gets on the move. He makes a beautiful throw to Jamar Chase for the touchdown. And like Washington, I'm like, okay, they're up 7-0 at home. They've got a very good vibe going, and they can't stop anybody. And I just get the sense, and I asked Burrow this after the game, when do you reach a point when you're the hole that you've dug is too deep to dig out of. And he said, well, we've got 9 games left. 10 games is basically will get you in the playoffs under almost every circumstance. 10 games will get you there. That means we've got to win 7 of 9. That's doable. I don't believe that he believes in his heart of hearts that they're anywhere close to being doable at this point.
And it's funny. So I told you I'm about 90% done with my column, and that's going to be kind of close to the end quote where Joe talks about it being doable, and it's going to have to be the question of, is it really? I mean, even if they play well, are they really going to Baltimore and winning? I mean, I guess you can say after today when they lost at Cleveland, then yeah, but is it really doable on the road? And you still have to go to the Chargers. They're not dynamic, but they find ways to win. You still have to go to Dallas. You still have to go to Pittsburgh. You still have Pittsburgh at your place. You still have a Denver team that keeps improving. I don't think they're very good. I'd have to look at their schedule to see what they've, who they've played to this point. I know some of it off the top of my head. I don't think they're good. They have a rookie quarterback who's, doing some good things, but they do have a good defense. Are you really going to 7-2? And I know what Joe said was, we've done it before. Yeah, I just don't think this team's good enough to do it again. I just don't. I hope for you Bengals fans that are watching this, I hope I'm wrong. I do. I know you do too, Mike. But after what I've seen through 8 games now, I've seen them beat 3 bad teams in kind of lackluster fashion where I got buffaloed a little bit by thinking, okay, defense is getting better. It's healthy. Yeah, they played crap teams, but they stuck it up their ass, and that's good. But then today you're like, oh, okay, well, here's when they played a semi-real offense, and here's where they really are.
Well, you know what, Skinny? Hold on.
Yeah.
For 2.5 quarters, they were there.
They were there.
17.
But
and their defense.
Go ahead.
And let's get to the defense real quick. And I want to do this segue now because before I forget it. We've ripped on the run game, and we should because they're soft. They are a soft football team on offense, period. End of story. Anybody who's watched them the first 8 games now would agree with that. But on defense, at some point, Lou Anarumo and the defense need to get to the freaking quarterback. And Trey Hendrickson had a horrible day.
Oh, my Lord.
I just wasn't there. As great a player as he has been, no doubting that, dynamic pass rusher, he did not have a good day, didn't shed the blockers. There was no pressure on Jalen Hurts. Go back and watch the replay on the 47-yard pass to Devontae Smith. There wasn't anybody within 5 yards of Hurts when he let go of the ball.
No, I mean, Trey has 7 of the 11 sacks that the defensive line, not the team as a whole,
correct,
but the defensive line has on the season. And so if you're not getting pressure from him, who else is doing it? It felt like, in the New York and Cleveland games, Sheldon Rankins, B.J. Hill, Sam Hubbard, nowhere to be found today. And to your point about Trey, Fred Johnson, Bengals cast off Fred Johnson, my guy, who I once asked Zach Taylor, hey, man, you got to start him. All he does is win games. And Zach gave me a goofy look. This is a few years ago when they were bad and Fred was in the lineup when they won games. And it was kind of more of a throwaway line that I just wanted to get a quote from him on. But anyway, Mike, I can't remember what play it was. It wasn't that touchdown, I don't think. Could be wrong. Where Fred Johnson, again, Bengals cast off. He pushed Trey Hendrickson almost to Covington, it felt like. He pushed him so far behind the line of scrimmage, it was embarrassing. And Trey was terrible today. Maybe, again, part of that is Fred Johnson keeps emerging as a quality offensive lineman in this league, but he got his ass kicked by Bengals cast-off Fred Johnson. And this shouldn't be a moratorium on me ripping Trey, because I don't mean it to be that. Somebody else needs to do something other than just him. But it comes down to the point of if he's not getting home, who's getting home?
Well, that's the problem. And if they're not getting home, it's up to Lou to blitz or bring some additional pressure. I didn't sense.
But he doesn't trust his corners, Mikey. I don't trust the corners at the moment. I think it's a problem.
Well, it's to me moot if you don't trust your corners. If you let the quarterback sit back there, especially if it's a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, who Zach Taylor told us this week, and he acknowledged this. Jalen Hurts does not have the same kind of offensive responsibilities as quarterback in the pocket that Joe Burrow does. Joe Burrow deciphers the defense in front of him, decodes the defense, and then makes his decision where to go, A, B, C, D options, okay? Right. That's not what Jalen Hurts does. And the point of getting pressure on a guy like Jalen Hurts is make him throw the ball when he doesn't want to throw it. He's more likely to do that, and maybe you get a turnover or two and change the course of the game. I just didn't see anybody in Jalen Hurts' face for most of the day.
Well, almost all the day. But I think that there's the discombobulation, Mike. We've talked a little bit about that on offense, but on the defensive side, I don't think Lou's anti-blitz. I think like all coordinators, he wants to get home with 4, right? I mean, that's what you want to get home and drop 7 and cover and play that stuff. But I think you're seeing, I mean, even on some of those plays where he dropped guys, I mean, you saw DJ Turner get turned sideways a couple of times. Cam Taylor-Britt almost broke his ankles a couple of times.
Yes.
I don't think he trusts those guys. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't think your point is wrong by any stretch because it's chicken and egg, right? It's do I blitz to make him throw hot and it's going to help my corners, or do I blitz and put my corners on islands that can give up big plays? Well, hell, man, you're giving up big plays anyway. Maybe it's time, to your point, maybe it's time to just say, you know what? I love Trey, but we're going to have to send Logan, and we're going to have to send Von Bell, and we're going to have to send Pratt. Not all of them at the same time, but we're going to have to blitz more. You know, listen, I got home today, and I had Red Zone on as I was writing, and it's you know, it's not tit for tat, but I'm watching Steve Spagnuolo at a couple key parts in the Kansas City game. I know they're different. I know they got dudes. I get all that. But there were times where he put 7 guys at the line and said, here we come. And by gosh, if they didn't come and make it really difficult on the quarterback.
That's what you've got to do, especially when the offense or the Eagles offense has scored against the Bengals defense on 5 straight possessions.
Yeah, it's not like what you were doing was working.
Correct. You got to try something different. Remember we brought up Jaden Daniels, who had the Hail Mary of all Hail Marys.
That's great. Did you watch it by chance?
I did.
I
was watching it with the lovely Deborah Ann, and she lost her mind, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I lost my mind, too. I just looked at it. I'm like, holy cow, that's one of the – because you know what's funny about that play, Mike? It was the easiest Hail Mary catch in the history of Hail Mary catches, right?
I've never seen an easier Hail Mary catch. I haven't either. And to the point where I wonder if Dan – help me, Dan –
Quinn.
The head – Quinn, thank you.
Yep.
Washington Commanders coach Dan Quinn – practice that where you get into a scrum and you set a tall guy behind everybody. It
was perfect
with the design of having the ball pop up and doing exactly what it did. But
it was
anyway,
perfect.
Jaden Daniels threw that ball about 70 yards in the air with a bum rib. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was
Jaden Daniels in that game against the Bengals, if I'm recalling this correctly, went something like 23 of 28.
I think it was better than that, Mike. I think. Maybe you're right. It was close. It was damn.
I'll have to go back and
it was damn near perfect.
It was almost perfect. Well, Jalen Hurts, in addition to his 2 tush push runs for touchdowns and a end around run for it, he had 3 touchdown runs. In addition to that, he was 16 of 20, 236 yards, 1 TD. His passer rating, Skinny, 132.5.
That's Jalen Hurts, man. That's Jalen Hurts doing those things.
Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels have wrecked the Bengals this year. And I'm just thinking, what do they have in common? Well, they're athletic. They can move. They move the pocket pretty well today. And they didn't face a lot of pressure.
Jaden Daniels, by the way, I just looked it up, Mike, on my phone. Jaden Daniels against the Bengals. I knew it was better than what you thought. I appreciate you. You're close. 21 of 23, Mike.
Oh.
So these two quarterbacks, hang on. These two quarterbacks were 37 of 43, man.
That's it's phenomenal. It's
grotesque.
astronomical. It's unacceptable if you're Lewis.
Yes.
That is not you're not going to win playing football like that and not getting pressure on the quarterback. It's just, and that's a question we've got to ask Lou this week. Like,
yes,
when a team has scored on you 4 straight possessions, what you're doing isn't working. Bring the house. What do you have to lose at that point?
Yeah, and maybe though it's a conversation with Zach saying, "Hey, I don't have a lot left in the tank offensively, man. I got no T. I'm trying to manage this game. Don't give up big scores. Make them drive." Again, I'm just surmising. I'm not telling you I'm right. I'm just
but
surmising.
my argument, my comeback to that is maybe you get a score off defense or short
maybe
the field.
Right.
Do something like that. Force the game. I think what really bothers a lot of the Bengal fans, and they are really, really upset after this one.
Understood.
Totally
Absolutely.
They sense that the coaching staff just throws up their hands and goes, "Oh well, we did our best. Nothing we can do. No T. Our guys are playing hard. We're better." Like Zach said after the game, we're better than what our record shows.
No, you're not.
No, you are not. You are what you are. And Zach admitted that. He knew. It was almost as if during his post-game presser, he spoke the words and then went, "Uh-oh, I can't let that hang out there," and said, "Yes, but I understand our record says we are what we are."
And I think that's the sobering result of today, and that's literally what I'm writing of. The sobering result of today isn't just today. It's now the trend of against good teams and the trend of where you are in this season and what you still have ahead of you. You're just not good enough. And that's sobering because, there's a possibility T's not here next year, and that sure doesn't look really good right now at the moment based on what you got on the roster.
Fans are going to lose their minds.
No question.
If you lose T, and look, we assume Jamar's going to get signed. Imagine the conversation that would have to be had with Joe if somehow they lost T and Jamar, and it's in the realm of possibility. I'm not saying
it is. No.
Joe would lose his mind. And I think a lot of fans, when they were listening to Joe after the game this afternoon, thought the same thing I did. This dude is ready to go. He's ready to blow.
Dude, I will tell you, I don't think it's in his personality.
May not be.
But Mike, I didn't think he was going to blow today, but you could, like I said, it looked like you killed everything dear and near to him. And then you said, "You know what? To hell with you, guy. Have a good life." It felt like, he is one of those guys who I admire for this. I coached high school basketball and coached AAU, and I love kids that just hate to lose. I just love those kids because I hate to lose more than I even like to win. And I love those kind. And I think that's Joe Burrow. I think he enjoys the win, but I also think he so hates to lose that it just grinds at him. And now, guess what? Rookie year's one thing, right? After rookie year, success, and then dealing with injury. And then before he got hurt again with the wrist, it was 4 straight wins and success. So he knows what success is. And all of a sudden, they can't find success. And I don't think he'll ever resign himself to that fact. But part of me today went, God, he's resigned to the fact that they stink. And that's a bad place to be.
So I'm going to ask you this because you covered them as well as I did. I mean, as well as I observed this quarterback from afar, and that's Carson Palmer.
Yep.
That name kept entering my consciousness today, watching this game and watching post-game Joe Burrow. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to approach that because I think there's a competitiveness in Joe Burrow that probably wasn't there with Carson Palmer. What do you say to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably right. I think Carson was competitive in his own way. I think Carson got really frustrated at times with Chad doing his own thing and trying to figure out where are you going with your route and where am I supposed to throw this ball?
Yes.
And again, that sounds like a criticism of Chad. I guess it is because Chad did his own thing, and when they were on the same page, it worked out beautifully. And then, I do think he got frustrated with where things were contractually, and so it was a different time and place in the free agency market and in the market in general. I think today, usually if you're getting paid or not, and Joe obviously got paid, so there can't be frustration there from getting paid. There can be frustration there from having some of his guys not getting paid. I fully understand that. I think it's little apples to oranges. I do think this, though. I don't think Joe Burrow needs it to be perfect for him to compete. I mean, I thought, if you go back and look at his backstory, I mean, he competed his ass off at Ohio State, and they probably weren't wrong in how they made that decision on who the quarterback was going to be. But Joe perceived it as wrong, and rightfully so, because he thought he did everything to be the job. So I'm going to go look somewhere else. Winds up at LSU and then shows what he can do. comes the NFL, shows what he can do. I do think this is a frustrating time because it feels like all the onus is almost on him and to some degree on Jamar Chase because T's been out for 3 games. They're 0-3 without T. And there's nobody else. There's no run game. Mike Gesicki had a nice game today, but there's no other option. And at that point, where do you go offensively? Where do you go as a quarterback? How do you keep fighting through this? I think he's trying to say the right things. And listen, things will probably be hunky-dory because the Raiders stink and you get to that. But, man, those 2 games before the bye week, Mike, they put you behind the 8 ball. I mean, if you're 4-7 after those games, then guys make business decisions. Hell, Joe might make them for all I know.
That is something I'm sure the Bengals and Bengal fans would like to not see happen.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Let's not borrow trouble, Skinny, I guess. Let's see what happens next week at home. Maybe they
Sure.
win a home game. What do
Good
you think?
Lord. They should.
They are 0-6 if you include the 2 preseason losses.
I forgot about that. Yes.
They are 0-6. A Bengal fan has yet to walk out of Paycor Stadium this season feeling victory. The last time they did was the season finale in a meaningless game against the Cleveland Browns.
In a totally meaningless game, yes. It's insane. That's part of the NFL, right? Is you go, depending on how many home games, because it's now a split schedule. Sometimes you got 9, sometimes you got 8. I mean, right. You get 8 home games. You should go 6-2 at a minimum, maybe 5-3 at a worst. You're already at 4. I mean, you're already at 4 in the negative column. You're already at 4, including a loss to one of, and you would agree with this as a New England Patriots former reporter, against one of the worst teams in the NFL. I know they won today. God love them, all that stuff. They're terrible. You've got a loss to that's the part to all this. Your 3 wins are against terrible teams, and none of them came easy. One of your losses is to a terrible team, and your other 3 losses, or other 4 losses, are rather to good teams, but you lost. And that's where I just go back to, I wish I wasn't there, and I wasn't there going into today. I honestly thought defense is making strides. Offense is doing just enough. Offense has played 2 good defenses the last couple of weeks. They'll come to life. And that first drive today, I went, okay, here we go. It's a good drive. 5 of 5 on 3rd downs. Big drive.
Held to a field goal on the response
held to a field
drive.
goal. Yes,
like,
exactly.
Okay, well, this is different than Washington.
No question. And here we go. This is going to be a really good win today. And at the end of the day, you go, you're just not good enough. And I don't think that's going to change. As
Mike Hilton told us, something's got to change. In 30 seconds, do you know what that is?
I don't. And that's the part to me. You know what's got to change is, I hate to do this, is your off seasons have to be better. Your drafts have to be better. Your signings have to be better. Your decision makings have to be better. I hate to do that. I shouldn't be there 8 games into this season. I hope to goodness for Bengals fans that coming out of the bye week, they're like, hey, you idiot. They're sitting now at 7-4 or 6-5. You're a dope. I hope I hope you guys are right. I unfortunately think I'm right. I just don't think this is a very good football team, and I came to that sober realization today.
All right, that is what you're working on for Local 12. Anything else, Skinny, that you are working on post game?
Yeah, no, just this podcast, which I completely enjoy, Michael. So thanks for that. We got that. I did a post game thing on the field with one of our sports anchors. That'll be on Local 12. The game stories up there too. I know you got all kinds of stuff at your media platforms as well. It's what we do, Mike, on Bengals Sundays or Thursdays or Mondays or whenever the hell they play.
Skinny, that makes 2 of us who enjoyed this podcast. It was a rough day for Bengal fans.
Yeah.
But sometimes we are here to provide that psychological coping therapy. Yeah, even though, on talk shows, you get to call in. You don't get to call into this podcast. Maybe down the road, if the powers that be give us the maneuverability and the technology to handle calls, maybe we can explore that. But we hope that Bengal fans watched this and kind of went along, nodded their head, and thought, yep, Skinny and Trags, you nailed the issues right on the head of what we're thinking. And if we could do that,
we did okay. No, I was just saying, I'm going to guess the pitchforks, though, are out for everybody, hopefully, other than us because I can see
Yeah.
where this is going. I will tell you, back in the day, my radio partner Tom Gamble and I used to host the Bengals postgame talk show.
Yep.
And it was a year where Scott Mitchell of the Detroit Lions threw an interception overtime to Corey Sawyer for an interception. And that was a terrible Bengals team. You could see it from Jump Street, but that I think made them 1-1 at the time. And I made every caller that called in say, thank you, Scott Mitchell. And most people got so mad at me, like, screw you, you're an idiot. They won the game. I'm like, they ain't winning many more, guys. You better thank Scott Mitchell while you can. So
there was one other thing that Scott Mitchell did that will earn him ignominy for all times. He spiked himself.
Oh, spiked himself. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes, absolutely.
How could you ever mention Scott Mitchell and forget that? Now, that was in Bengals stripes.
Yes.
Yes, it was. All right, we got to wrap it up here. Skinny, you're awesome. Be sure to check out Skinny's stuff on the X at local Skinny. I'm sorry, at local 12 Skinny.
Got it.
I got it right? Yes. At local 12 Skinny. He's got everything up there at local12.com. Follow my stuff at Trags, Trags on the X. And of course, as always, on our platform, CLNS Cincy with a Y.com. Now, finally, again, it was the Bengals losing to the Eagles. First time ever that Philadelphia came to Cincinnati and got a win, 37-17. Until next week, he's Richard Skinner. I'm Mike Petralia. Thanks for watching.